they're going to either have to speak up, show up, be in place, or shut up. And then, like I said in part one, this is not a diss against the men. We have men on tonight. I'm a man myself, but we do. This is not a diss toward the men, but this is an education for the woman and also an education for the man as well. A lot has gone on since I came on live Monday. There's a lot that's been going on. I received a lot of inbox messages from you all, and I want to thank you so much for that. I want to thank you for your support. I mean, y'all really watched this video, and y'all really shared this past video, and there's a lot here to unpack, and I'm going to try my best to unpack it. The majority of it is going to be because I had posted pictures of Ike and Tina Turner. I really looked into their situation. You can really learn something from watching other people and learn something from the experiences that they went through. And there's a lot there. I mean, and I'll read it to you. I've got an interview here that Ike did with a newspaper, and then I have an interview that Tina, because there's two sides to a story, Tina gave with Oprah. And I pulled out some key parts that I wanted to share with you. And then I just want to talk to you in general, women, and I want to speak to the men. But women, I want to talk to you. Thank you, Osho York. She says, enjoyed part one. Deacon Kevin Massey, thank you so much. I want to talk to the men as well. And remember, we covered a lot in part one. I pray that all of you have seen it. And I'm not going to go back and rehash some of the things that we talked about in part one, but we want to try to move forward from here. I want to read a couple of things from you, okay? I got some messages. One was from Monica Graham, and she said, in my period now of resting in the Lord and being healed, I don't date, even though quite a few have asked me out. It's a no for now. I thank God since He rid me of the clown. I wised up a lot. One clown asked me out earlier this year, sent me texts, flowers, said beautiful words that we ladies just love. And I said no. And this is what he said to me. Monica, you are a very clever lady. Many women just run after me. I can play any woman. Another one a couple of weeks ago asked me out, told me he was in love with me. Every time he's seen me, would try to hold me in front of others. The Lord had it that I stood and watched him do the same to two other women. I'm not clever. I've wised up. After dating two clowns and a narcissistic over the years, making the same mistakes 3 times and having to learn the hard way, I can honestly say I've learned, thank you, Jesus. That's deep right there. Dawn, I'm with you. Wow. That's saying a lot right there. I mean, we could probably unpack that right there. And I believe if many of you have learned through dating and stuff, let me know. Just so you know, I've learned some lessons here. About when I talked to you about purchasing a car with awesome credit. That's where you need to be, working on your credit. And the more you work on your credit, the less you have to bow and scrape to anyone. And when your credit is right, you can go to any car lot. You don't have to be subjected to buy now, buy here, pay here, what have you. But the more that you learn, the more you have under your belt, the more that you can weed out. Because you don't need, you're not desperate. So when you're not desperate, and that's the key thing. Ladies, if you're at a point where you cannot be by yourself, where you like, I just can't be by myself. I've got to have somebody in my life. That's the time when you should not date. You hear me? When you feel that you can't be without someone, you got to have someone in your life. You cannot be alone. You can't go to the movies by yourself. You can't go out by yourself. You can't enjoy your own company. That's the time that you should not hook up with someone, because you're desperate. And when you're desperate, you're going to do desperate things. And those desperate things are going to lead you to make some jacked up decisions. And it's going to lead you to when you're desperate, you fall for anything. And even when you know better, because of your desperation, you say yes to things that you should have said no to. And a lot of these men are benefiting from women who are lonely and and are basically cutting corners because they don't want to be alone. Men are counting on that. Men, a lot of us want the sex. That's up front. Boom. That's what we want. We've heard all through the week, even preachers. We've heard married men, single men, men that profess to be holy. Boom, sex is the first thing that's on a man's mind for the most part. You've got to learn. You've got to learn. The married ones, kick them out. Those that prove that they're not, that they've got some game going on, kick them out. But the ones that are trying to talk to you, remember, you got to be at a place where you're not desperate. Remember I said there's certain food I don't keep in the house because I'm too weak. There's certain things, if it's in the house, if I can get in the kitchen and get to it, I'm going with it. And so that means for you, if you're weak, you don't need to be around any men right now. If you know that you're in the building stage, and we're going to talk about that, the rebuilding stage, we know that hurricane has come through Puerto Rico and has absolutely devastated it. Today, I was watching on the news, 80% of the people in Puerto Rico are still without power. I don't know if you understand that. I mean, because when it's not us, we hear it, but we don't feel the impact. Many of y'all have been in storms where the power was out for 2 days, 1 or 2 days, and you thought you were going to die. It's been a minute now. Puerto Rico, 80% still doesn't have any power. They don't have any cell phone service. They don't have any internet. Their connection is cut off. I want you to remember this because I'm going to go somewhere and tie this together with what I'm saying. They have to be in the rebuilding stages. Your life has been through a hurricane. Many of you have been through a hurricane. And the people in this hurricane have been people, have been men. And they've come through and they've cut off your power. They've cut off your ability to reach out to other people. A controller, and that's what a hurricane does. It controls, it moves, it shifts things. A controller, one of the first things a controller is going to do is going to cut you off from getting help. It's going to cut you off from your family and from your friends. Many of you have witnessed that. So now you're going to have to rebuild the island of your soul that has been demolished by this hurricane. And so Monica Graham here is really saying something. She's at a point where she's learned some lessons. She's not desperate. And because of that, like you saw what the guy said? The guy said, wow, you're really clever, Monica, because normally I can go up to any woman. And that's what your name, you have to change your name. You are not any woman. You are who you are, and you're unique, you're valuable, you're something special. There's no one like you. Let these men know, oh no, I'm not any woman. See, that's what they think. That's what we think, because we're shopping for sex. They think you're like anybody else. And the problem is, and I'm going to read this other thing this woman wrote, and it's pretty, she spoke from her heart, and she said some key things. She's just fed up. But I've got to continue to talk to the women, because, if we said tonight, okay, we need 100 men, just to sit down and listen to what this man's got to say, it's going to be like pulling teeth. In our spirit, because of who we are, we as men don't want to accept instructions from another man. We want to find our own way. Before GPS came out, there were cars ripping and running down the freeway, but men looking for directions, looking for a place that they claim they know how to get to. And the wife or the woman has always said, baby, why don't you just ask somebody for directions? Why don't you ask somebody? I know where I'm going. I got it. Now, Rob says it's not true. There's some good brothers out there who do want to know. But we know that there are a lot of men who really don't want to take instruction from another man. That's why they've got to get it from when they were young in the home, from a man that they respect. If it's not their father, it's got to be their uncle, their pastor, their neighborhood friend, somebody to catch them in their infancy when they're willing to listen. But once they get grown, many men want to find their own way. We know everything. You can't teach us. And we're going to do things our way. We're not going to submit to another man. That's why there's more women in church. We're going to do things our way. So, Danny said the majority. Okay, the majority. And with that type of thinking, I could preach all day long. I could preach all day long. So and so that's it. Now Malcolm says tired of folks beating up on men, on the black men. I hear you. I hear you. But if anything I'm saying, if you could tell me something counter to what I'm saying, then go ahead and say it. Go ahead and say it. But again, I'm speaking the truth because you can see how many people really want to hear. So I've got to talk to the women. Again, this was my ministry, what God has given me to do in terms of talking to the women. So again, other people are successful at ministries for men, and they're able to talk to the men, and we thank God, but this is what God has given me to do. And if I could speak to the women, because we men do what we do because a lot of the women end up letting us. That's what I'm saying. A lot of the women end up letting us. So who do we talk to? Who do we talk to? Who do we talk to? Let me read something else to you. Let's see here. Hope Lizette Africa, and I think she's on somewhere. And she basically out of today spoke out of frustration. And she said, will there ever be biblical teachings for men anywhere? How to submit and surrender to Christ, how to pray and let the Holy Ghost lead you in treating virtuously women properly, how to love your bride as Christ loves the church, how to court, how to date, how to have integrity. Shaking my head. Women are always searching, learning, praying, changing. If men aren't on the same page, they think we are aliens because our language is foreign to them. There's no balance. Shaking my head. Tired of church folk telling me there's something wrong with me. Tired of men telling me I have too many standards. Love you, Pastor Darryl Cherry. I'm just fed up. Men need healing, deliverance, and guidance. Now, I'm going to go ahead and say this because of the comment that came forth. You can't speak in general about everybody, and this is true. But just because we tackle a specific area doesn't mean we're bashing everybody. But if we don't cover the area because you get offended because we're talking about a specific area, nothing gets solved. So I'm not going to avoid the topic and you say, oh, we're beating up on men. Ain't nobody, we just telling the truth. And if we avoid it, nobody's going to learn anything. So again, if you know who I am, if you know what we're doing, then you ought to know how we flow. Again, I make no excuses for anybody. And again, I've got to talk to the women and men, we can learn as we go along. But again, if you can't learn, if you're so busy trying to defend men in general. Women, you can't learn if you're so busy trying to defend women in general. Take it for what it is. And again, that's the only way you're going to learn. You know, again, if we don't tackle it, we don't deal with any of it. You know, if you think that we should not pick on the men and don't say anything of what men do in general, come on, man. I mean, that's you're not being realistic. You're not being realistic, and we've got to talk about it. And if you don't want to be here, you know, it's real easy. When you do the live, you can scroll. Your thumb is already set. You just scroll on over to the next live feed or go watch TV. But we're going to deal with the men tonight, whether you like it or not, and we're going to deal with the women tonight, whether you like it or not. It's amazing. In my posts, I'm talking like a father or a brother to the women, and I'm coming down pretty hard, you know, and I'm coming down pretty hard. Y'all don't say nothing then. But then when somebody mentions anything about a man, now you want to get defensive, and you don't want us to say anything. Oh, man, we're tired of it. No, it's y'all. It's that trifling nature and the thing that you think you know everything. We're going to deal with it. So, again, if you don't want to deal with it, go to the next live show or go watch TV or go do whatever you do. But that's not going to stop us from doing what we're doing. So, again, Tia, thank you. You know, again, I'm not picking on the man. I'm a man myself. And there's some lessons that I had to learn. All right. Now that I put that out of the way and I've sent the other folk can go where they need to go, let's just unpack this thing with Ike and Tina real quick. Tina, when they asked Tina, you know, what happened when Ike died? How did you feel when Ike died? And you can learn a lot from this. When Ike died in 2007, and Tina said, no comment. No comment. That's saying a lot. I mean, to go through everything that she went through, and they asked, how did you feel when he died? And she said, no comment. Going back real quick, if we don't deal with the Ike Turners, if we just say, oh, he's a man, we're not going to pick on any men, there's no way people can learn. I'm the one that's getting the emails and the inbox messages from women, and it's the same story. So time and time again, women are being abused, women are being mistreated, women are being used, and who are they talking about? So we've got to deal with the men. So how in the world am I going to ignore that and just say we picking on men? That's absolutely ridiculous. Why don't you help set an example and get out here and help do something and show folk what a positive man is supposed to do instead of trying to defend garbage? And that's the problem. We ladies do it too. When somebody come down hard on y'all, we defend garbage because we don't want to hear it. Ike Turner was interviewed by this magazine called The Spin, and this was in August of 1985. And it's an article written by Edward Kirsch, and the title is Why I Beat Tina. Now, y'all need to listen to this. Now, ladies, when you are getting to know a man, if you listen, don't rush. If you listen, you'll get to hear some key things from them. When you're out with a man and you're dating a man, he ought to be able, you need to listen for key things when he's talking about how he was raised. If he mentions key things, okay, this is what my dad taught me, this is what my mom taught me, this is what my aunt taught me. If they can never share those types of experiences, that's going to be a big red flag. That is going to be your proof that they don't have certain things that are instilled in them. And since they don't have those things instilled in them, you're going to be the guinea pig for whatever experiment they come up with. Listen for that person and say, you know what? My aunt taught me, my uncle taught me every day to go to work every day. My brother, I watch my brother coming up, and he this, that, and the other. If they don't have any family or positive thank you, Lillian, role models or examples, that's going to be a big red flag. And it's got to come up. It's going to, within 3 or 4 dates, you may even question, what was your childhood like? What was this, that like? Find out. Again, the sex thing that's the easiest thing on the books to do. Animals do that. Don't rush that. Don't rush that. And ladies, you're going to have to hold us against our nature until we learn to feel something for you. Because if you don't hold us against our nature for us to have some feelings for you, you're going to be just like that guy wrote to that woman, Monica, I think in the beginning of what I wrote. He said, I can go up to any woman, and I got her, you're any woman. If I lay down with you and I don't know you, if I lay down with you and I don't have feelings for you, see, men, hello, I'm beating up on the women right now. Now, see, y'all ain't paying attention to that. Because women make the mistake of laying down with men, hoping that they will like them. That's not the formula. That's not the formula. You're any woman. You lay down and that man don't hardly know you. You're any woman, and you've got to hold us all off. Preachers, rabbis, whatever. Men in general, men with titles, Deacon O'Malley, Trustee Lawrence, every man, that nature, if you say yes, we with it for the most part. We're going to take it. But again, you're going to have to hold us off. The men that mean something, that really want something, Evangelist Keldo, hold on, I'll bring you on in a little bit. The men that really are looking for something more are going to want to hang around. They see something special about you. Thank you, Evangelist. They're going to hang around. If not, they're not going to stay. And that's what you want. You want to weed out the sex machines. You want to weed out those that only want your body. You got to weed them out, and they're going to. They can't hold on long. They can only fake it but so long. And many will come out and tell you, I'm not doing that. I'm just not doing that. Esther, bless you for taking notes, Tony. Amen. All right. So let's see what Ike says to say. Now I want you to listen, because there's a lot here. What Ike is saying, and what Ike is saying is typical of a lot of us men. Some of this stuff, and then some of the stuff is not typical. But, like I said, in general, the abusers. There are some good men out here who mean well, who've been taught well, who've been raised well. And then there's some men that have not been taught well. They haven't been taught. There's been no family values. The dad hasn't been in the home. They haven't learned. Or there's some men who were in decent homes and they refuse to hear the instruction of the father, and they refuse to hear the instruction of the mother. So you're going to have some of that in here. But Ike, man, I'm telling you, we're unpacking Ike tonight so you can learn something, because some of you women have seen Ike before. Watch this. The person sat down at a table at a restaurant. They called Ike Turner. They searched for him. They wanted to do an interview with him. They went to the record companies. They went to several places where they even checked the jails, the local jails, because they heard he was getting in trouble. But they wanted to interview Ike just to get his story about the whole Tina Turner thing. And so Ike met this guy at a restaurant. He comes in the restaurant. He has a woman with him. And while he's being interviewed by this guy, he's steadily putting his hand down this woman's legs at the table in front that everybody can see. And he's rubbing the woman's thighs and all this. This already shows you no respect for the woman. All right. While I'm reading what I'm going to tell you, he said he's rubbing this woman in between her legs and her thighs. All right. And this woman is sitting here. She is, like Monica was saying, any woman. All right. Okay. He said, this is right out the gate. I love surrounding myself with beautiful women. I always have. Tina said I always mess around with other women, And that's true. I won't deny it. If you want to set a trap for me, bait it with a woman's private part, and you'll get me every time. One time, I got upset when I read something that Tina wrote. And I wrote her a letter, and I said, why don't you talk about you and stop talking about me and the kids? I told you that you're hurting the kids and you're embarrassing them. The boys have nothing to do with us. He said, it's been a year, it's years ago that I had lost a temper. Check this out. After all these years, I don't regret nothing I've ever done. Follows it up with absolutely nothing, man. Because it took all of that to make me what I am today. And I love me today. I really do. Let me interrupt that and say, you see that warped sense of thinking? It's a warped sense of thinking. You can't even look at the reality, like Tony said, is sad and Lillian Wow. You can't even look at the reality of the things that you've done and the people that you've hurt and your broken life. You can't even, and you don't even see it. You love who you are today. You know, he died of a drug overdose. He's been hooked on cocaine for years. Watch this. Yeah, I hit her, but I didn't hit her more. Watch this. Now this goes back to the men that say we shouldn't talk about men and be tired of men beating up all the black men and men in general. Watch the thinking here. Where did he get this from? He said, yeah, I hit her, but I didn't hit her more than the average guy that beats his wife. The truth is, our life was no different from the guy next door. My life has just been exaggerated. People buy bad news, dirty news every day. If she says I abused her, maybe I did. Listening? Check this out. It gets deeper. He says, look, man, I've been married 10 times. I started getting married when I was 14. First, there was Edna Dean Stewart. A few months later, it was Velma Dishman. Then Dolores Ward. And then it was Alice, I don't remember her last name. People, I said any woman. He don't even remember her last name, but he married her. People can believe this or not. I don't care. You give a preacher $2, the papers cost $3. That was it. In those days, blacks didn't bother with divorces. When I was in St. Louis and Tina started hanging out at the clubs I was playing, she knew what I was doing with women. She knew how I am. There were no surprises ever. She was with me 4 years before we started going together. Every time I bought a dress for the mother of my 2 kids, I got her one. If I really wanted to talk about Tina, I could. She and her saxophone player boyfriend, Raymond Hill, one of the Kings of Rhythm, an early Ike Turner band member, were living in my house in St. Louis. He got Tina pregnant. Let me stop there. Now, in the movie, if you remember, they were going out to a restaurant together, and it was a piano player that kind of liked they kind of liked Tina, and they were walking together in the restaurant, and then Ike cut in, and then he did something with his hair. He slicked back his hair, told the dude, "Get out of here! I'm on this. This is, you know." That was basically, you know, they changed it around, but Tina actually dated the oldest child that Tina and Ike only had one child together. Tina had a child by the saxophone player in the band, in the early Kings of Rhythm band. She was going with him first. So, and she did get pregnant. She had a child. It wasn't Ike's child. She had a child by him. All right? Check this out. Let me say this. Ladies, you're dating men, especially in church and places where people see you. Other men are watching you. And the man you're with, you could be with, the man that you're with at that time may not be the man that you end up marrying. So you need to make sure that the man that you are with, whenever any men that you get with, represent who you are. They need to represent who you are because other men are watching. And if the man is trifling and everybody knows it, other men, that attracts other men who feel they can jump in and use you as well. But if they see that they're looking at there are other men who are looking at your taste. They're looking to see what type of man that you're going to be with. I've had example after example where a woman has dated their boss on the job. The man's married or the man's trifling. He's with all kind of women. Everybody in the office know it. And you're just being used. And then when that man is finished with you, here comes some more trifling men. Because they say, hey, you let Bob, get with you. That's the kind, you showing me the kind of men that you sign off on. So, see, that's what I'm saying. You got to be very careful. If you're dating somebody in church, they got to be on the up and up. They cannot be trifling. The men that you pick, other men are watching. So say, and every man is not for you. Say if you're dating a guy, this guy's not going to be your husband. Boom. Okay? Somebody's watching on the sideline who's a quality man, who really can love you. He's going to step to you, one, because of what he thinks about you, but also because you are showing that you want quality, and you're not just falling for anybody. You get in a rut of dating jacked up men. Now let me go and say for the men, there's some good men and there's some bad men, okay? I'm talking about the bad men for a minute, okay? There's some good men, but there's some bad men. We're talking about the bad men for just a minute, okay? Again, if you don't set an example, again, by who you bring out in public, that's going to say something. And whatever you're dating now, that's the pattern that the men are going to see. And you know what? When I was single, there were several women in the church that I thought that would be good to date. I said, okay, I really like this person. They're with Charlie Murphy right now. I gotta wait. I gotta see if that's gonna pan out. Charlie's a cool brother. He loves the Lord. He's serious. He got a job. He works every day. He really seems he cares about her or whatever. So when that thing doesn't work out, there's been times that I was interested in the person until I saw the person they picked, the people that they were dealing with, and the things that they were putting up with. And that was a turnoff, and I never stepped to them. Even when they were single, I said, oh, no, they've already shown me, they've already shown me. All right, let's go back here. Check this out. So Tina had a baby by Raymond Hill, who was in Ike's band. He said they were living in my house in East St. Louis. He got Tina pregnant. I get mad at him because he would watch this. Make Tina go downstairs while he went upstairs to have sex with another woman. So Ike said, where's she come off sounding so innocent these days? If she let that go on, why is she acting like, she's all innocent? Tina even got girls for me. I didn't do anything with her that I wasn't doing when we first met. She'd get Ikeettes for me. I was with them. She knew that. There were times I'd be on stage and I'd see a pretty girl out there and I'd say, see that girl? Tell her to meet me over at my house. See that one? Go put her in the car. Tina did this for 4 years. I was never phony. She knew what was going on. When we were living together, later on, she did the same thing. I didn't threaten or force her to do this. There were times in the studio, she'd bring me and the girl I was with food. Why is she so angry now? She never was then. Now, let me say this. Many of you listening to this and you're like, man, this is horrible. This is horrible stuff. But the equivalent of this is many of you women, I'm getting on the women, are dating men, seeing men that you know are with somebody else. You're in the same boat. You're no better than when Tina was bringing women to Ike. That means she knew about it, and she signed off on it. There are some of you who are so tied to certain men, you're willing to be number 2, number 3. You just want to be in the mix. And while you may not be bringing women to your man, you know your man is with somebody else, and you're not doing anything about it. You're just as guilty. And it comes from many things, which we don't have time to unpack tonight, but mainly comes from low self-esteem, low self-worth. It comes from not investing in yourself. It comes from not being able to be by yourself and get yourself up to quality levels so you learn to love yourself. And once you learn to love yourself, you're going to set parameters. Like Rob said, you're not going to be in denial. Many of you are in denial. But the reality is, you're Tina Turner here. You're Anime Bullock. You're bringing or allowing Ike to be able to have other women because you're not saying anything and you're allowing yourself to still be in the mix. As Easton just said, love yourself. Okay? Leela says, not believing that you're worthy. So, all right, so then let me go on. He says, the band members didn't like the way I treated Tina. I hit her terribly. Her eyes were often blackened. Once, the guy was saying, once he bought her a dress, this is the guy that is interviewing her. Once he brought Tina a dress with bird feathers on it that he wanted her to wear for TV. She wore it before the show, and Ike was enraged. The next day, she was wearing sunglasses. Somebody just said they could testify to that. It came up so quick. I hope y'all see that in terms of the reality. Exhausted by these assaults, Ike's promiscuity, and his mounting use of cocaine, Tina tried to commit suicide by taking an overdose of sleeping pills. Many of you out there tonight, as I'm mentioning this, you haven't committed physical suicide, but you've committed spiritual suicide. You've allowed another person, the way they've treated you, to make you give up on life. That's wrong. That's wrong. You cannot let another person who did not create you, change your mind about your life and your purpose. Many of you have taken an overdose of sleeping pills in the spiritual. You've attempted to commit suicide. But tonight, and those of you that are watching what I'm saying right now, God did not allow you to die. And that's why you're watching me right now as I speak life into your spirit, life back into your spirit. We're hooking you back up intravenously and giving you the things that you need. We're giving you the oxygen of life. We're giving you God's spirit. God did not allow you to totally die because he wants you to use you for a purpose. And I speak life to you tonight. I speak life to you. Thank God you were not successful. Some of you even tried to commit physical suicide, but you're here. And that means God's divine purpose saved your life for a reason. Spiritually, again, those of you that have been walking dead, you've been walking dead because you've tried to commit suicide because of somebody else. Again, if you let somebody else tell you and lord over you and abuse you, it will get to the point where you won't want to live. You've got to get out of their surroundings. Okay, let me go on. As she lay there dying in the hospital bed, watch this, y'all. Ike reportedly called for her mother. He actually called her a mother so-and-so for abandoning the group. This woman's laying there after trying to commit suicide, and he's cussing her out at the bedside for abandoning. This is what he cares about, the group. He called her Bo, which is short for the other names that he called her, which it was a pet name. It wasn't a cuss. He said, "Hey Bo," he said, "You coward." This is what he's whispering in her ear as she's laying on the bed trying to recover. "You chicken SH. If you want to kick the bucket, why didn't you just jump off an overpass? You don't see me taking the short way out, yet you want me to believe you're more woman than I am man." And he said, I said that to try to get her motivated and her tongue moving. In 1976, Tina split, and Ike panicked. This is when she had enough. And he said, when we broke up, I was scared. I was very scared because there was no way, watch this, I could pay those bills. And some of you may say this sounds bad, but some of you are with somebody right now because you can't pay your bills by yourself. So you are just as guilty as Ike Turner. He's not thinking about Tina and her welfare, Tina and her mental state, Tina and her soul. He's thinking about, how am I going to pay bills if I don't have Tina in the house? Tina was the cash cow. She was the one that was helping, in addition to the music he was writing. We got to give him credit for music. But it was that stage presence, everything that Tina brought to the thing. She was the one that was helping to bring him to a certain point. But as many of you have pointed out, even in the last session, Tina failed to see her worth. And she failed to see her worth. And because of that, he continued to beat her down so that way she would not see her worth. You know why men or women, I'm going to throw the women in here, beat you down? You know why women have beat me down in the past? You know why men have beat you down in the past? It's because they don't want you to see your worth. They blacken your eyes spiritually, even naturally. Spiritually, if your eyes are blackened and they're half closed, you can't see your worth. And that's what the enemy wants to continuously do. They want to continuously hit you in the face as close to the eyes as they can. They want to keep your eyes closed to the real truth that you have worth, that you are worth something. They don't want you to see your worth. So he's worried about how he's going to be able to pay his bills. Now he goes on to say, now this is Ike Turner, so he's going back and forth in the interview. I love sexy girls, but let me tell you, man, speaking of mistakes, I'll never marry no more as long as I'm chocolate. I've been whorish all my life. Even as a kid, I had to have a pretty girl. But man, this has caused me lots of trouble. See, that's all he sees women as, is trouble. When you go out with a man, listen to what he's saying. Listen to what he says about his ex. He's going to say some key things. If he doesn't admit some of his faults, if he doesn't say something positive about any of the exes that he's been with, you need to zero in on him. Say, okay, dog, I got your number. This is what you say to yourself. Okay, keep talking. I'm checking you out. It's everybody else but you. It ain't you perfect. There ain't nothing going on with you. I remember I used to tell my wife certain stories. She would interrupt me and say, okay, cool. They did this, they did that. What was it that you did? What have you done? And that brought the reality. Okay, yeah, I had to mention that. All right, that's Ike's side. Let's hear from Tina. She's sitting down with Oprah Winfrey in 2005 for an interview. At the time, she's 65 years old, and Oprah says she's more gorgeous than ever. We're about to see a story about being of redemption, a story about women what happens when you decide to speak up in your life, because that's what these segments are. She said, you're more gorgeous than I've ever seen. Tina's reply was, I've never been happier. And she said, and her face and her demeanor actually showed it. Oprah said, your legs aren't just long, they're shapely and beautiful. Tina said, I never put watch this. I never put a lot of praise on myself because of my relationship with Ike. You hear that? She allowed the relationship to make her not understand her worth. She said, I was just happy when I started to like myself. And again, until you learn to like and love yourself, you're never truly going to be happy. Yeah, exactly, Lamnice. Like I said, seeing somebody that's actually in trouble, watching this case study, helps you to unpack a lot of things that may have happened in your life. It's helping you to see the picture of why you need to speak up and you need to control your life and not allow a person to control your life. She said, I never put a lot of praise on myself because of my relationship with Ike. I was just happy when I started to like myself. Watch this. When I divorced and took control of my life. I just said it. You're not going to be happy until, like Diane said, love yourself. Take control of your life. Oprah said, you didn't just divorce, you broke out. She said, that's right. I fell in love in high school. Why did I fall so deeply in love? I think when you haven't had much love at home and you find someone to love, everything comes out. Many of you can identify with that. Oprah said, the first love can be the most difficult to get through because you've had no experience. Tina said, that's right. When I think of Harry now, this was her first love, my heart beats faster. He was the most good-looking guy. Everything was right in place. His eyes, his nose, his mouth. He was a basketball star. Sometimes I wear his jacket. It was fainting hot, but because it was his jacket, I wore it. Oprah said, I can see that. She said, Harry took my virginity. I don't regret it. I came home that night and folded my dress I'd been wearing and put it away. The next day, my grandmother was doing spring cleaning and everything got washed. When I came home, she said, I knew you were running around. You're going to get pregnant. She said, oh, Oprah, I felt so embarrassed. I didn't know what to say. She didn't wash the dress. She just left it out. There was a big spot on it. She didn't let me go dating Harry anymore. She said, Ike had to come. Now she's going to talk about Ike. Ike had to come to the house and ask Ma if it was okay for me to sing with him. He knew I had the potential to be a star. We were close, like brother and sister. We had so much fun, Oprah. Now, this is counter what Ike said. Remember the last part when I asked you, when Ike was asked what was some of the greatest times that he had with Tina, and you remember what his example was. Now, she's saying, we had so much fun, Oprah, on his off nights when he wasn't working. We'd drive around town, and he would tell me about his life, his dreams. He told me that when he was young, people found him unattractive. That really hurt him. I felt bad for him. I thought, I would never hurt you, Ike. I meant it. That's another thing that many women have done. I'm talking about the women again. Many of you have fallen in love with people because you felt sorry for them or you felt that you could fix something about them. Many times it doesn't work. A lot of times there's certain things about people, and you jump in and try to save them. You ever think about trying to save somebody drowning? They can actually take you down. So here's some things here. He's basically talking about what happened to him. She said, he was so nice to me then, but I did not see the other side of him. He was always fighting people. But I just thought that it was because they wronged him, that it had nothing to do with me. Let me jump in right here. Many women have heard stories about the man that you're seeing, their ex, what he did to them or what he's done to people in his past life, and you think that is something wrong with them without even checking out the story. You go, oh, yes, that's just them. That's the way he's going to treat them. He's not going to treat me like that. I'm above all that. That's not going to happen to me. And many of you find out when you start talking to exes, there's a pattern. There's a pattern. So she said she thought it had nothing to do with her. So Tina said, I also saw that he had a temper when he would fight the girl he was dating. When he would fight the girl he was dating. Then I learned that his father had been beaten up by some whites for going out with the same woman one of them was going out with. His father later died. I learned the whole story about Ike. During the time when I didn't have a boyfriend and Ike had broken up with his woman, he started touching me. But I didn't know what to do or say. We were sitting in the back seat of a car. In those days, everybody did what Ike said. He had power. He had never been mean to me. I felt loyal to him, but I didn't want a relationship with him. All right? Then came a recording studio, and she's talking about when they recorded A Fool in Love, and Ike sent it to New York. Soon after, Ike and I had a little run-in, and I said to myself, I think I better get out of this. So she was getting, having thoughts about, I don't need to be in this. Maybe I should, so she was thinking about getting out of it. And so when Ike found that out, he beat her again for that. And he actually beat her with a shoe stretcher. And Oprah said, wait a minute, he hit you with a wooden shoe stretcher? And she said, yes. She said, where were you? She said, I was at his house in East St. Louis. I was afraid of Ike. I talked to the manager because I felt the vibration of what was about to happen. I wanted out. And Oprah said, even if it meant giving up your music, and Tina said yes. She felt that she could, find some other way. Watch this. Remember how I told you that a woman is made from a rib, and a woman's job is to protect those ribs, protect the vital organs of the body? Watch this. Oprah said, did he hit you in the face? And he said, always. She said, later, so they're trying to blacken your eyes so she can't see her worth. Later, he hit me in the ribs and then always tried to give me a black eye. He wanted his abuse to be seen. That was a shameful part. So he was hitting her in the ribs because that's what she's made of. If he could if the enemy, I'm going to say the enemy, can use someone to damage what you're made of, then you're not going to be useful for your own purpose. She said, Oprah said, what happened after he hit you? He told me to go to my room, and after that. And she said, she was basically saying he hit her many times. He was on stage. She said he was unhappy. Oprah said he was obviously unhappy with himself. And that's the other thing. Key thing you need to listen out for when you're dating a person, a man or a woman. And that's why I said, women, if you're unhappy with yourself, you can trigger unhappiness and imbalance in a relationship. You can find a good man. There are women out there who find good men, but there's something in you that jacks up every relationship that you have because you have not dealt with, you just sabotage. It's just in you. When you haven't dealt with some of the things that from your past, you end up sabotaging a good relationship, a potentially good relationship. Dewey Upshaw is talking about Ike Turner's history, the family life. Here it is. You just got to listen. He's telling you, he told Tina everything she needed to know. She watched, before her eyes were blackened, everything she needed to see. And this is the thing, these are some key things. And many of you women, many of us men have seen what we needed to see in the beginning, but for some reason we made an excuse or we felt that that was just an isolated incident, or that we could help fix this person, or that we can help change this person, or that, these are some key qualifiers that's going to let you know that drama is going to ensue this relationship if you continue to go forward. All right? Oprah asked, what was the greatest humiliation for you? Tina said, there were so many. He liked to show the public that he was in control and that he was a woman hater. Do you hear this? He wanted to show people that he was in control and that he was a woman hater. Listen to the person that you're thinking about getting in a relationship with. I promise you, if you hold them off, that sex thing, it stops up the ears and it closes the eyes. Now your feelings are involved, and many things that other people who are not sexing this person can see, you can't see, because now you've created a bond. You've created a soul tie. Hold this person off with the sex. I'm telling you, you're making it a norm. You're like, okay, am I in a relationship? We're going to have sex. That's not how that works. And the more you do that crap, the more you're going to miss key things. And then the drama that's going to be placed on your life, you're going to go to God, okay, God, please help me. I'm in so much pain. I can't live without this person. That's because you locked up with them prematurely before finding out that they were a nut, or finding out that they had some things missing in their life, finding out that their childhood, there was things that they had some unresolved issues, and those issues from back then are going to be a problem in this relationship. They haven't gotten counseling. They don't know they need counseling. They haven't fixed anything. So let me say this. You ever go by a jackleg mechanics? You drive past a car lot there, and you see all these cars that are not fixed. There could be many reasons. There could be, the person didn't pay. The person didn't, whatever. They abandoned the car, what have you, or they're using it there for parts. But sometimes they just didn't fix it. They didn't get around to fixing it. And if you can see somebody, a mechanic that has a whole lot of cars around that they haven't fixed, how in the world do you expect that they're going to fix yours? So if you see a person that has a whole lot of broken down things, I'm preaching right now, in their life, men or women, if they got a whole lot of broken down stuff, am I right, dual victory, in their yard, how in the world you going to get with them and you think they're going to fix your car, or they're going to have a normal working relationship? When you see all that junk around, when you hear a lot of stuff, take an inventory of their yard. Okay, what's that car there for? What's that car there? You ask questions. Okay? If they can't fix those cars, they're not going to be able to, they ain't going to fix nothing you got going on. They won't be able to fix when things break down in relationships. Did you hear that? They won't be able to fix when things break down in a relationship. You need a mechanic. Okay? Not someone just to perform maintenance. Oh. Not just someone who can perform maintenance, but someone who can fix things when they go wrong, And in any relationships, things break down. But you got to have somebody. Yeah, Lisa, I'm preaching right now. You got to have somebody who is willing to shift into mechanic mode, and they know how to fix things, and they have the willingness to fix things. Okay? Everything doesn't have to run the divorce court. Everything doesn't have to give up. Everything don't trade in to get a new car note. Every time you get a new person, that's a new car note. That's a whole another car payment. Why have another car payment? When you don't have to. Get with somebody who has the ability to fix things. Okay? Let's see. Let me Tina said the band everybody knew that she was getting beat up around her. Many of our family know that we're being abused. But it takes you to get out of it. She said the band turned their head because they needed Ike for drugs, and work was hard to find in those days, and Ike was paying them good money to be on the road, so to keep their job, they had to be silent. So it was up to her. It was up to her. Oprah said, some part of you must have believed that you deserved the abuse. Okay? She said, Oprah, if I thought I deserved it, I never found that out. I came into this lifetime with a job to finish, and I finished it. I've been told for many reasons why I lived through what I did. So that was the thing. Oprah asked her, was it a self-esteem issue? There's no way this could happen to you today. Looking at her now. I just ran across a letter, this is Oprah, that I wrote in my 20s when I was in an emotionally abused relationship. I'd written 12 pages to one of the greatest jerks of all time. I wanted to burn that letter. I want no record of the fact that I was ever so pitiful. This is Oprah talking. It's amazing when your self-esteem is not in place. The stuff you go back and look at the stuff that you did when your self-esteem wasn't in place. That's why I said if your self-esteem is not right, you need to stay away from men. Men, if your self-esteem is not right, you need to stay away from women. Women will use you. They will smell it on you. They will use you to the core. All right? So basically that was their situation. I want to make sure I covered everything on them. When she left, Oprah asked her, was she afraid? Tina said, I wasn't afraid of death. And I knew there was nothing he could do. And this is where you need to get to in terms of your deliverance. I knew there was nothing he could do or say or do that could make me go back to him. In court, during the divorce, he tried to give me a mean look. And he wanted to say, you're such an idiot. Do you think your vibes can reach me now? This is what she's saying to him now. You have no power over me. For anyone who's in an abusive relationship, I say this. This is what Tina's saying. 2 words, 2 letters. Go. If you're in an abusive relationship, go. If you're in an abusive relationship, go. She said, nothing can be worse than where you are now. You've got to first take care of yourself. And she said, and then you can take care of your children. They will understand later, but you've got to take care of yourself. The reason why she went to Buddhism, because she said somebody that was buying drugs from Ike turned her on to it. Someone that bought drugs from Ike turned her on to it. And she said she was going through so much, she was willing to try anything. And that's the other thing. When you're desperate, you're willing to try anything. All right? So, Oprah said, are you happy in your life? She said, and this is as of today, she said, I'm very happy. Now let's look at some other things. Let me look at some other key things, and then we're going to wrap this up. Ladies, it's time for you to safeguard your essence as a woman. What is your essence? It's your nature. It's your indispensable quality of something. It's your soul. It's your spirit. It's your nature. You've got to protect who you are. You can't allow anyone to change who you are. and to obstruct the things that you've already learned. You've already been raised. You don't need nobody to re-raise you. Let's look at two, and we'll sign off. Let's look at two examples. Many of you remember All in the Family. You remember Edith Bunker. Y'all remember Archie Bunker. You remember that family. Now we're going to do some contrast. And now I want you to remember Florida Evans from Good Times and James Evans from Good Times. Let's look at Edith Bunker for a minute. You remember Edith Bunker would run around the house, and she was out of control. I mean, she just whatever Archie wanted, she would go ahead and give Archie. He holler and scream, and call her names. He called her two names. Now watch this. He called her. Now, if you look up Proverbs, what a Proverbs 31 woman is, Edith Bunker met some of those qualities in terms of her keeping home. But in terms of speaking up for herself and keeping control and some of the other things that Proverbs 31 speaks of, she failed in those areas, and Archie knew it. So he called her names. When a man realizes or thinks that you're not going to operate as a Proverbs 31 woman, and they realize insufficiencies in you, thank you, Darryl, they're going to start to call you names. Have you ever had a man call you names? If you're with a man that's calling you names, he doesn't love you. Okay? A man that loves you is not going to call you names. He's not going to really, unless there's some kind of schism or something going on with him. You know, a man that truly loves you, or how he should truly love you, is not going to call you names. But Archie knew that there was something missing that he could, and since there was something missing, he could control her every move. Edith was always in a panic. Yes, Archie, here's your beer, Archie. Y'all remember she was ripping and running while Archie was relaxed. Archie was relaxed. He was chilling in his chair, but she was ripping and running. And because he realized there was something missing from her, watch this. He called her two names. He called her Dingbat. Y'all remember that? That's what he called her. He called her, and I want you to think about Florida Evans, because you already know Florida ain't going to have it. He called her Dingbat. And that's because he knew there were some things missing in her in terms of her being able to stand up as a woman and taking her rightful place in the home. When men, or women, but I'm speaking to the women about the men, when men feel that you're not going to rise up, that you're not going to defend yourself, you have no control, they're going to start calling your names. He called her a dingbat. Then the other thing he called her, watch this. You know, her name was Edith, Edith. He called her Edith. He took the H off. What does H stand for? H stands for help me. He didn't see her in her full capacity as a qualified helpmeet, and he took the H off the bottom of her name and called her Edith. So those were the two names that he called her, Edith and Dingbat. And when you get with a man and you're not in your rightful place, he's going to call you a dingbat in so many different words, and he's going to take the H off your name, the helpmeet, your rightful place, your purpose. He's going to take that from you. And that creates a cloud of dysfunction in the marriage and relationship. Let's look at Florida Evans. James was a strong man. We love James. James hollered when he hollered. He had control of the house. But Florida wouldn't put up with certain things. Florida was a Proverbs 31 woman. Florida helped to run the house. Florida, as a rib, was able to control certain situations. You remember when Thelma had wanted to get married. She wanted to marry Larry, the mechanic. And James thought that Larry wasn't good enough for his daughter. James looked at him as a blue-collar worker. James looked at him as someone struggling. And James did not want that for his daughter. He wanted what he thought would be better for his daughter. And JJ stood up to his father. It was one of the few times that I saw JJ stand up to his dad. He said, "Dad, I love you. You know, I respect you, but in this case, you're wrong." And if Thelma wants to be with someone, if this is the person that she thinks that she could be with, why don't you? They should be able to give it a shot. And James said, son, I'm not talking to you now. You stay out of it. Leave it alone. Now Florida's standing on the side watching this, and he said, "No, Dad." And James' eyes got real big. He said, "Son, I'm gonna tell you one more time." That's it. Sex in the Ghetto. I think that was the episode. So I'm gonna tell you one more time. Janet, bless you. Still in Jamaica, having a good time. Bless you. I'm gonna tell you one more time, son. You stay out of this. He said, "No, Dad." So his eyes got big. He said, he said, "Son," he laughed. Now, son, I'm gonna tell you one more time. I don't want to hear nothing else out your mouth. He said, "Son, now I want you to be quiet. That's all I want to hear about the subject." He said, "No, Dad." So James went to step to JJ, and Florida stepped in the middle. And what she did was she put her hand over his rib cage. Oh, Lord have mercy. To remind him, this is a spiritual analogy, to remind him of her purpose as a rib. I'm going to engage right here, and I'm letting you know that I've been taken out of you to help you to cover the vital organs. She put her hands over James' ribs, and the engagement that was getting ready to happen stopped. Florida respected her man, and let this be a model. She respected her man, but she also knew exactly when to talk to James, how to talk to James, without emasculating him as a man. If you try to make a man not feel like a man, that's when they're going to get violent on you. That's when things gets rough. So this is where, the wisdom, and you see James didn't call Florida names because she didn't put up with it. This is what I'm saying. You can do all of these things and still have a man's got to respect your position. The man's got to you got to make the man respect your position. And when you make a man expect your position, you don't have to run around the house like a dingbat. Okay? You don't have to run around the house. Florida never ran around the house. She was in control of her family. And when I say her family, in her place in terms of taking care of the kids. She honored her man. She loved her man. He honored her. He loved her. But when the rubber met the road, James knew that this is a Proverbs 31 woman, and I can't run over her. And these are the things that you've got to instill in you. So this hurricane came to Puerto Rico, devastated your island. What do you have to do? You're going to have to restore the electrical power to your life. You're going to have to restore communication. Get back in touch with people that can pour into your family. Don't let somebody isolate you on an island like that. Start restoring your resources. Restore your resources. Tina hung in there with Ike as long as she did because for a long time, he held the key to her resources. Get your own resources so you don't ever have to rely on someone, because when somebody knows that you're going to rely on them, that's when they start to abuse you. Gilligan's Island. Let me say something about that. You remember Marianne and Ginger were normally always the one in charge of the entertainment. Watch this. They did skits, they did plays, They did all kinds of things to keep the men and everybody else entertained on this marooned, deserted island. Check this. When men are stranded on the island of life, they often look to women for the entertainment. Did you get that? One more time. When men are stranded on their own personal deserted island, they often look to the women for entertainment. It's time, ladies, figure out who you are. It's time for you to get your self-worth back. Diane, as she said, independent. It's time for you to be independent. It's time for you not to be in the place where you can be taken advantage of. Tina Turner changed her situation. She got up out of that mess, and she changed her life. She went to another country. She's not even a U.S. citizen no more. That's how bad the beatdown and the impact. And sometimes you, ladies, sometimes you got to change your citizenship. You got to even change your citizenship. I don't even want to be a part of everything that reminds me of where I've been. I don't even want to be connected with it anymore. I'm going to a new country. I'm going to God's country. I'm going to create a new life for myself. I'm going to separate myself. And that's where you're going to learn to get the power you have.